Off the, believe it or not, the FY2027 budget process. We're here with our Director of Budget and Finance, Jeff Rank, and Capital Planner, Karen Rogers. So we have a presentation here to go over, highlighting some of the finances, the revenues, expenditure side, a little overview of our budget, and then we're going to talk about some projects and try to set some priorities for the capital plan for next year. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff and Karen. Let them lead the presentation here. And if you have questions, this is interactive, so if you have any questions throughout, by all means, jump right in. And this is just to try to get some feedback and conversation about, our budget going forward for next fiscal year. And we just had a very good meeting with our friends at the Board of Education. They have a few capital projects they want to advance this year, and we'll be talking about those as part of the meeting tonight as well. They have four main projects they are going to seek some state funding for that we need to make a decision tonight whether or not we want to continue with those next year or defer any of those to future fiscal years. So, all right, Commissioner Moran, thank you for being here. All right, Jeff.
All right. Thank you, Commissioners, for allotting us a little time this afternoon. It's the first time we've done this. We thought it might be a good idea to both inform you how we expect things to look next year, as well as get feedback from you all concerning your strategies and priorities for the upcoming year to better inform us. As far as the agenda, first I'll explain a little bit about the purpose of the workshop, give a brief overview of the county's economic and revenue outlook. Then we'll get into a discussion of strategic priorities, capital projects, mention some items regarding our fiscal health and some key budget considerations. Then speak to you about our plans for public outreach and communication efforts this year. Again, for the purpose, so the first November workshop we've done, and we'd like to ensure a shared understanding of our fiscal outlook, current projections, and historical trends. Second, to explore and agree upon strategic priorities that will drive the 2027 budget development. Third, to identify any known or anticipated constraints, whether it be fiscal, operational, or legislative, that may impact our planning this year. And finally, to begin developing our approach to public outreach and engagement, as I said.
Yeah, Commissioners, this presentation is up on the screen. It's in your book as well, tab number 6, item number 1, if you want to look in your books. So, sorry I didn't mention that sooner, but so you have two.
I was waiting to see if the numbers and the lettering get small. They do.
Yeah, they get small, some of them. But.
Okay, starting with revenues, Queen Anne's County continues to experience strong growth in both income and property tax receipts. These are our primary revenue sources, as you know, and we're projected to collectively reach approximately $195 million by next year. Notably, this growth is occurring without any increase to the current income tax rate of 3.2% or the property tax rate of 83 cents per hundred assessed value. This is a testament to our stability of our economic base, driven by steady employment levels and sustained property value appreciation. These factors underscore our sound fiscal foundation heading into next year. On the next slide, regarding expenditures, our largest commitment remains education. The Board of Education funding continues to grow, approaching $90 million by next year. This aligns with both local demand and state mandates under the blueprint. Additionally, our personnel costs, including salaries and benefits, are expected to rise by over $6 million across the 3-year forecast. We also anticipate growth in our capital outlays and debt service as we fund infrastructure and facility improvements. These trends reinforce the importance of balancing long-term commitments with flexible fiscal planning. Next slide. So let's quickly examine the economic context shaping up for next year. Starting with the labor market, Queen Anne's County currently has the lowest unemployment rate in the state, 3.3% as of this past August. Although that's a positive sign of employment stability, it also indicates a very tight labor market with limited slack. This environment puts us upward pressure on wages and benefits, which we as a local government must consider when forecasting our personnel costs. Looking across the region, most counties are clustered between 3.5% and 5% unemployment, Although we're performing well, this also means we face more acute challenges with recruitment and retention, especially in our competitive fields like public safety and public works. We're still seeing moderate strength in the housing market. Prices are up about 6% this year. However, there are signs we may be reaching a plateau. If that trend holds, it could slow the rate of growth in property tax revenues. This is especially important in ex-urban counties like ours, where real estate trends are a major revenue driver. From a structural standpoint, Queen Anne's and the broader Eastern Shore face long-term constraints. Things like industry concentration, out-migration of younger workers, and limited economic diversification. Because of these factors, we need to be conservative in our revenue forecasting. We cannot afford to build budgets on aggressive assumptions that may not materialize. Another external risk is exposure to federal and state funding dynamics. Queen Anne's is affected by federal contracts, grants, programs, including some tied to defense and infrastructure. A federal slowdown due to hiring freezes or rifts, broader economic uncertainty could ripple down to us easily. Finally, inflation, while it's stabilizing, is still having an impact. When you combine that with labor shortages, we're likely to experience continued cost pressures on the expenditure side.
Real quick, Jeff, on that
Yeah.
point. So RIFs at the federal level, though, based on the study I saw from the state, actually could be a bonus for the counties in terms of employees.
Because the
Short
state's cutting, what, like 500 jobs?
Well, they're cutting, if the feds cut, there's a glut of people with governmental experience that are going to be available to hire that are probably going to want to be hired and maybe more apt to take the moderate salaries versus what they're used to. That's a report I just read recently that it could actually benefit us in terms of hiring. So just
you're right.
wanted to throw that in there.
Good point. Again, our goal was to prepare for elevated cost pressures, particularly in wages, benefits, and capital project delivery. The next slide, our revenue forecast. Our general fund revenues from FY25 through 2031. For next year, we're estimating total revenues at $221.8 million, roughly $10 million more than last year in 2025, driven largely by growth in our tax base. Our two main revenue sources, income and property taxes, make up nearly 88% of all revenues, with income tax expected to bring in $99.7 million and property tax bringing in $96.3 million next year. Although we're projecting steady growth there, thanks to wage increases, job growth, and rising property values. Other revenues like recordation and transfer taxes remain stable but are vulnerable to shifts in the real estate market. Investment income is expected to decline slightly after this year as interest rates normalize. Smaller revenue streams like permits, hotel taxes, and intergovernmental aid round out the picture and can fluctuate with grant cycles or economic shifts. And for context, I just wanted to note this year, 1 penny of the property tax rate equates to $1.1 million in revenues, and 0.1% of the income tax rate equates to $2.9 million in revenues. These forecasts above assume no rate changes and will be refined as we move through budget development. You can stay here on this page. I'm sorry, next slide.
Sorry.
Did you say per penny on the property tax?
1.1 million per penny
Per penny, okay.
on the property tax, yes.
Gotcha.
Right here.
And per tenth on the income, right?
10%, yes. This slide likewise shows our expenditure forecast. In 27, we anticipate spending about $226.5 million, which is a 7.8% increase over the prior year, mostly driven by inflation and major investments in personnel, debt service, and education. Salaries and benefits remain our largest cost drivers, topping $61 million next year due to COLAs, market adjustments, and rising benefit costs. Operating expenses will grow gradually while debt service increases with scheduled payments for capital projects. Transfers to capital and enterprise funds rebound in 27, supporting our key initiatives. Education is a standout pressure point. rising from 83 million this year to nearly 104 million by FY31, fueled by blueprint mandates and facility needs. While last year, FY25 showed a $10.5 million surplus, structural deficits emerged from 27 through 30, peaking at nearly 4.7 million before a small surplus returns in 2031. Although these aren't immediate crises, they underscore the importance of early planning, cost control, and preserving reserves to maintain service stability in the face of rising demands. This next point touched upon, again, our pressures constraining us next year. At the Board of Education, we're anticipating an additional $6.5 million in operating funding over this current year to support their core educational needs, salary adjustments, and programmatic obligations under the blueprint. Additionally, we do plan for capital investment related to the new or renovated Centerville Middle School potentially, which would have long-term implications on both our capital budget and our operating costs as we service new debt.
Yeah, let me just stop you right there real quick for a minute, Jeff. We just had a very good work session with the Board of Education. They do have 4 capital projects they want to advance with state shared revenue in FY27. That's action item 12 in tonight's book. That letter has to go out this month so that they can, I know it's out of sequence with the budget process that most governments have, but that's the state process. Jack's over there shaking his head. I see him. I know it. We do this every year, but we have 4 projects. One of
What was
which
the
is
total, 10 million on those?
The
What was
total
it?
on these 4 was about 7 million. So they have a Kennard Elementary School HVAC, which went up in cost, Kennard Elementary School roof replacement, Centerville Elementary School HVAC design, and the Centerville Middle School design effort, which is a total of 5 million, 2.5 million local share. So those are the 4 that they've suggested, their top 4. They originally had projects local share over 10 million. We did get them to knock a few of those off and push those out, but those are the 4 that they've requested this year. With those 4 and the other projects they have in the capital plan that were allocated or planned for in FY27, they're still about $2 million above where they were during last year's process. So we haven't looked at all the other locally funded only projects yet in a lot of close detail, but we may be able to make some adjustments there as well. But those are the 4 they want to advance that will receive state shared revenue. So. All right.
That was a fun meeting.
Also wanted to speak quickly of some potential unfunded mandates and legislative impacts. Highway user revenues and roads. There's uncertainty around whether the county will need to supplement state road capital projects as HUR allocations are reduced or limited. Notably, beginning in FY28, allocations are expected to revert to fiscal 24 levels, which were lower than current temporary increases. That reduces our flexibility for road maintenance and construction unless replaced with local funds.
I think they're gonna get a deal done this year. That's about the only thing they can deal on this year. What it looks like, I don't know, but
You mean to
For
keep it,
HUR,
to keep
extend
it where it is or to let it slip?
now extended.
To extend it. That'd be great. I'm actually speaking at Mako on a panel Friday afternoon on that, and I was looking at the numbers, from back in the heyday, and they were, as you recall, we didn't use any general
million a
fund
year.
money at all for roads, ever.
My
I
first
mean, it
term,
was-
we were getting 8.5 million.
Oh, yeah, it was, the numbers are like this.
Thank you,
Straight down.
O'Malley.
Yeah, so,
Snatch that back.
yep.
Yeah, I quickly also wanted to mention, we currently now fund the State Department of Assessment and Taxation Office here across the street, 90%, and we may expect to pay the full cost of that office next year. Health Department, the current split is 54 state and 45% county. Mako is advocating for a more balanced and sustainable model that accounts for local needs and long-term public health outcomes. But if state support shrinks, we may be expected to cover a greater share of the health department costs. And with the court system, with the potential addition of a circuit court judge, We'd be responsible for additional courtroom staffing, security, and operational expenses.
Is that a mandate? Do we have to do that this year?
It's legislative.
Yeah,
The second court judge,
Yeah.
if it passes the General Assembly.
Yeah, it's gotta go through General Assembly.
Yeah, Senator Hershey, I think, introduced it last year. It didn't get through. I'm not sure exactly what happened at the end there, but
I understand
it is going
that,
to,
but do we really need it?
Another judge, you mean, here?
Yeah.
But that's going to be statewide, right?
Correct.
Not just us?
Well, counties that are at a certain threshold,
Yeah.
it's like, once you get to a threshold, it's gotta come before the legislature, and then they gotta decide how to move
And
forward.
who appoints those judges?
Governor.
The governor does.
Governor does.
I know,
There you go.
yeah. No, I agree.
gonna
Jim,
pass.
as long as we can hold this out,
Yeah.
you know where I'm at on that one.
Yep.
Whoops, stay in the drawer. Don't know what happened to it. You're missing one up there too, Jeff. We are gonna get the other half of them.
The
OPEBs.
pensions, yeah, the state pension, or
coming.
teacher pensions, yeah.
Yep, that's a given.
That was about, what, 820?
It's almost 900,000,
It's almost
yeah.
900,000, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Ta-da.
definitely coming. That and the rest of STAT are a guarantee.
I'm just trying to keep it lighthearted, George.
But that's because of that bottom sentence that you
Yes.
have there, that's why.
yeah.
Because there was no appetite to drop the rest of it on us this coming year until that surfaced.
That sentence just copy and pasted from the last 3 years.
No, last year was 3.3, so. It's, you change the numbers, same sentence.
Sorry, Jeff.
Sorry.
It wasn't
Yeah.
supposed to be 1.5 this year, though, according to last.
No, it was supposed to be 300 million this year.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a lot lower, yeah, so something happened. That and the Key Bridge, I don't know.
They got a
what
bridge to
happened.
pay
What happened?
for. Yeah.
Well, so I do have an update on that. That's what I did get is, so part of that 1.5 is the SALT deduction change in the big beautiful bill, going from 10,000 to 40,000 for adjusted gross income, which affects the county's 3.2% of the adjusted gross. So that's part of it. I know that at the state level. And it's a pretty sizable piece, if I'm not mistaken. So that was the big one that dropped. And I know the other one that's not in there is what you mentioned already, is the actual fallout from the federal downsizing and all. They didn't even put a number to that yet, so. Yay.
Yep. So on slide 10, we start our Board of Ed capital funding. To begin our strategic priorities discussion, we'll look at the Board of Education's FY27 capital request. The total FY27 request amounts to roughly $13.7 million and includes the following major capital projects: $2.6 million for an HVAC replacement at Kennard Elementary, $2.5 million for architectural and engineering design funding for Centerville Middle, $1.7 million for a roof replacement at Kennard Elementary, and $1.3 million for asphalt paving. And as Todd previously mentioned, at the session tonight, the Board of Education will seek a support letter and a commitment of funding for the FY27 shared state and county capital projects. So prior to approval, the commissioners must decide whether to include funding for the Centerville Middle School design in FY27 or defer it to later years.
Did they have, well, you guys met with them, did they have any indication, talking to the IAC, like, in the out years, if we spent the 2.6 million of our money this year for design, how long is that design gonna sit before they're gonna be able to get funding from the state? Do they know?
For construction, you mean?
Yeah.
We didn't ask that question specifically, but we did ask about how much it was going to cost.
And what was that?
50 million.
Our share, or was that total?
Total project.
So our share is 25.
25.
But I mean.
That's a good question. We didn't ask that
I
question.
think
Well,
that
and
sounds
based
low.
on the way the funding always
Could
runs on
be.
capital projects, it typically sits for 2 years before it actually gets utilized. So we put 2.5 out next year for the engineering. That engineering sits for 2 years. All technology is changing nowadays.
Yeah.
We spend $2.5 million, then we're gonna have to spend $500,000 for an update by the time they go to build it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. It's,
So you're suggesting maybe we push it?
it's like, what's the reality that the state's gonna fund it? That's my thing. I mean, if the state said, yeah, in 2 years, we're gonna have our half to fund it, then yeah, we go through the process. If that's the way we're gonna go in brand-new school and not a renovation. But if the state says, well, you know, we're looking at probably 4 to 5 years, why would we spend $2.5 million to engineer something that's gonna sit on a shelf for 4 or 5
I agree,
years.
I agree.
So we need to get an indication from the state where we are in the queue for getting the money to build it before we allocate 25 million in bond money.
For our listeners, can you remind them of why we wouldn't consider rehabbing it?
Well, currently the Board of, they're
That is
doing a,
on the list
It's
of
on the list, yeah.
possibilities. They're doing a feasibility study right now between rehab, new, and renovating an old building.
Or adding on possibly?
No,
Rehab and adding on,
it would be,
one or the other?
if they built a new one, it would be on the same property. You build a new one, tear down the old one.
Or keep it?
yeah. So that feasibility study is supposed to be completed around February, presented to their board, and they'll make a decision on which one they like. The idea would be they want to continue with the design or whatever the option is selected, which likely is going to be build a new school, move into it, and take the old school down. I think is going to be the preferred option. At 50 million, Commissioner, you think that's a little low?
I think it sounds low, right?
It could be, it could be.
Well,
It
what's
was
Kent-
30
what's
million, but now
What's
it's-
Kent County looking at for their school that they're?
60
Yeah.
for that elementary?
For an elementary, right?
Yeah, we're not building a middle school for less than 60. That's why, when you say 50, I'm laughing at that.
Yeah.
There's no way.
For our share.
When he said 50, I'm like, wow.
And he said 50 with,
Yeah.
what was the term he used,
It
enhancements?
sounds, as it sounds, that would be great. I just don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a lot more.
I don't think it's double, but I think it's probably 80.
Yeah, they were basing it on what the square footage of what they're currently funding.
Which is about
But it's gonna
500,000 a
change.
square foot. Or $500 a square foot.
Right, 500.
Correct.
500.
$500 a square foot on a 90,000 square foot project, just round up, 50 million. I mean, if you take a look at it at $500 a square foot or $506 a square foot, whatever he quoted us, you know, you can, okay, we can make that work.
Well, ultimately, the board's got to make that decision, and then that doesn't come until, this is where we're front funding something that they don't know what they're engineering in February when they find out what they're going to engineer.
Yep. I mean, it could be delayed one more year, but,
Well, I want to see what the board says. I mean, has the board, are they standing firm on this, that that's their priority, to spend $2.5 million? That they don't have any other projects right now that are more outstanding?
it was priority number 4 on their
Yeah,
list.
it's-
Yeah, I mean, if you ditch that, they'd probably move a couple of them back into
Yeah.
the queue.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's,
The order they gave us was Kennard Elementary HVAC, which went up in cost almost, well, doubled. Kennard Elementary School roof, because they can get a grant, and then Centerville Elementary School HVAC planning and design
Dump these
primarily
two.
for HVAC as well. They listed those by priority. Number 4 then was the Centerville Middle School AE design funding.
he's good. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything
Yeah.
else on that one before we move on? All right. The next slide highlights the county's major capital projects currently under consideration. Each represents a significant investment in our county's future, whether in public safety, recreation, infrastructure, or education. However, funding all of them simultaneously is not feasible. We must carefully weigh the benefits and costs and prioritize these capital projects accordingly. The table on the left shows projects currently included in the capital plan, while the table on the right shows projects not yet included, but that may be added and prioritized in the future. Major projects that are currently incorporated into the 6-year capital plan include the Queen Anne's County Detention Center, the Board of Education Career and Technology Facility, replacement of the Centerville Middle School, a pedestrian bridge overpass, sheriff's office facilities, a recreation center, renovations to the historic courthouse, and a new animal services facility. The following are major projects not yet incorporated into the 6-year capital plan, though a need or request for them has been identified. Acquisition of the Jamal property and the old Graysonville ambulance building, the purchase of an additional EMS unit, funding of a charter school, additional storage and office space for the Board of Elections and library, the acquisition of the historic high school, and funding for a new health department facility.
Can't we put the sheriff's office in the detention center?
The new one?
At the detention center, I think. That's where it should be.
I mean, if you think about, if we're gonna dump that kind of money into upgrading the detention center, throw the sheriff's office building right in there too, and have it at that same location.
We could do that now. The detention center project's probably going to get pushed a little bit because we're probably not going to get our state shared revenue until fiscal '28. We have to go through the programming stage again since we're back, to having our own facility standalone. So that one likely will be shifted out a couple years because of that fact. We're trying to get the money next year in FY27, but I don't. Well, we'll see. I mean, we're still going to try, but I don't think they're going to provide any additional state revenue for the detention center, so that just pushes everything out. And then what happens is all these projects kind of get stacked out there in the out years, and it makes that bottom line number really, really big, as far as going out for, a bond for those. So we like to try to stagger them, so that we can kind of complete them systematically going forward. So these are the projects we have, and we'd like to get some feedback from the board on some or all of these, so we can make appropriate plans.
Is this the time to be asking questions about
Sure.
these? Okay, so the historic courthouse, what else needs to be done?
You haven't been over there lately? It's not been renovated yet. They haven't done they have to do the roof, the HVAC, renovate the first floor for the Register of Wills Orphans Court. Second floor courtroom is going to largely remain as is with some minor, refinements and adjustments, but that's going to be pretty much the same as is. But they'll have to put an elevator in and a staircase. Lower level will be, meeting space,
Okay.
and then, of course, it's the backup 911 center down there and some other office space.
Some of those items, I think, are still on the table for discussion as to whether that they need to be done.
Right.
For it.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I agree. I think the Orphans Court and Register of Wills can stay here for $10 million.
They're not and that's not the expensive part, right? The expensive part is really if you gotta put an elevator in, then move a stairwell. And to me, for the ceremonial courtroom that gets used a few times every couple of years.
not worth it.
It's not worth the taxpayers' money to do that. I think.
I agree.
I like the feel of the old courthouse. I like when you walk
Particular
in and
order.
there's a nick in the wall, there's a story behind it. That's part of being historic.
Numeric, that's it,
So I
right?
think there's
Not
gotta be another
necessarily
way to do it.
No, I agree.
a level of importance. Oh, okay.
I like the
Just
idea of.
didn't know where your
incorporating
mind was at when you put this together.
Some of the tree that came down, incorporating that into some work, that makes some sense. There's some history with that, but 10 million, I think, is a lot for the historic courthouse. When we have all these other priorities, that's not, it would not be $10 million well spent, I thought, for the citizens.
Moving on?
Well, real quick, Jim, have we discussed with the state for anything, or with our delegation about getting any money on the bond bill for some of these other ones that are, like the rec center or the pedestrian bridge or anything? Have they expressed any interest in trying to get us some on the next
We've
bond bill?
pursued multiple grants, bond bills for the pedestrian bridge. Everybody likes the project. We haven't been able to reel any money in yet for those. We had some small bond bill projects, but typically the ones that we're getting are, $500,000. Nothing really huge. I don't expect anything major next year either, but we can certainly pursue those going forward. But they're kind of difficult to get now too. And the ones we have received, it takes a long time for that money to actually get rolling back into the local level. I mean, we've got a couple for the Crumpton and for Seebeck, and we had to do a bridge loan, I think, for Seebeck just to cover, so they could continue the work and waiting for that bond bill money to be delivered. So it's nice to get it, but it is a timing constraint sometimes with receiving those funds. But we can certainly, we're pursuing those and always looking for that, yeah.
I mean, in my mind, that additional EMS unit's gotta go over on that side, without a doubt, looking at these call numbers.
The what now?
The additional EMS.
Move
unit
the
should be
ambulance over
on
from the
that
right
side,
column to the left.
For sure.
From not in to in.
Not in exchange for anything, just add it to there?
It's gotta be in there. I mean, you guys get the reports just like I do.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. And that's one of our most important functions is public safety, so.
I mean, that's something tangible, right? That they can see their tax dollars being used for.
If they have a heart attack, we can't bring them to the old historic courthouse.
Nope.
We need an ambulance.
Yep.
That's right, that's right.
Nothing against the animal lovers, but
Yeah, that might have to take a while too.
I love me a dog, but
Anything else on capital before we move on to operating? Questions, comments? Please.
I do this before Thanksgiving, huh?
You have some smaller numbers you can show us?
Not really.
Smaller numbers, yeah.
good timing on that one there.
Less depressing?
All right, this slide outlines the county's major operating budget considerations that are not yet incorporated into the FY27 budget. First, the Board of Education is requesting an additional $6.5 million in operating funds over FY26. The county is also evaluating the addition of another EMS unit with an estimated annual operating cost of about $1.1 million. Next, pending state legislative approval, the county would be obligated to add a second judge to the circuit courthouse with an estimated yearly cost of $250,000 to $400,000.
Now, that's the cost for both the judge
Yes.
as well as
Correct.
deputies and stuff.
And
Support staff,
I
yeah.
think to address your question earlier, Patrick, is yes. I mean, you look at some of the caseloads that they're dealing with over there, and I think Judge Knight actually has a cot there. She just stays the night.
Yeah, the good news is the new courthouse was designed for 2 judges, 2
Yep.
law clerks, so it's, all the accommodations are there. There's 3 courtrooms actually, so it's set up for
Scott heard
2
someone say
courts.
EMS unit and he popped.
Yeah, he did. He heard EMS unit at home and still made it here in 5 minutes.
So does that 250 to 400, that does not include the sheriff's deputies that are gonna be
No.
required, correct?
I don't believe so.
It would, it
Again,
does not.
right?
It
An
does not.
assistant, her and or her and
Right.
him,
I would think so.
judge and a
Clerk, whatever, stenographers and all that,
Yep.
right, covers all
And
that.
there's always a need for additional, resource officers, sheriff.
So that number is closer, probably 650,
No,
700.
I do know that there is talk that they are, because I think it came up last year, that they're re-looking at that, because there's actually Baltimore City has brought it up. Actually, bigger jurisdictions are fighting that. The number of sheriffs required in the courthouses and all that. That's so. with
A
the big
reduction or an
counties-
increase?
Reduction.
Okay.
Because with the big counties coming after it, we may see something happen with it to where they realize, because it is, I mean, you look at some of these outlines. I will say this, in all my travels around, we're the only one of 2 commissioner council buildings that doesn't have security at the front door 24/7. So, that's a big expensive
Well,
thing.
Jim is rather intimidating.
But again, so if the big counties get on board with something like that, obviously, we're gonna jump on and be all in favor of it, and maybe they get it pushed through, so.
Because they can adequately manage the security with less staff.
Correct, yeah, and I think they've proven that. Last year, it came up as a discussion, but it never really
With the
materialized. in
technology, the
anything.
cameras, everything else.
Exactly, that's the
there's a
thing,
lot.
is that's what they're looking at, is all the technology they've got now.
And the sheriff's department's not far down the road in an emergency.
And then talking to the sheriff, he agrees with the whole premise of it, and I think a lot of his fellow sheriffs are on the same, of the same frame of mind, that we don't need 12 sheriffs in a small courthouse, so.
There's 20 over there. It's a lot.
It's, oh, no, whatever the number
It's
is,
a
I'm just
lot,
saying, it's-
yeah. It is.
yeah. You got more sheriffs in the courthouse than you do running the roads, so.
All right, and so for our last 2, the county is also considering adding additional sheriff staffing for protection and enforcement purposes at a cost of $70,000 to $120,000 for each officer. And lastly, there's potential for added county costs for state roads, highway safety improvements, and enforcement, though the exact amount is still undetermined. That would just.
Yeah, and I added that on there only because, we're doing the ramp management program. We may want to expand that. We talked about, I know other jurisdictions have allocated dollars to state highway projects to pick up a federal match, 20% match on improvements, so that could be considered at some point. So these are just things for discussion, because we know how the state revenue is for transportation projects. We're just trying to get a
So we pay for
J-turn
the
up
state
there. It takes 5
agencies,
years.
we pay for the state roads, we more than cover the state share of education.
And enforcement.
And our
on state
tax money
roads.
goes to Annapolis, but not.
Right, I know.
Yeah, and it's
It's a great deal.
Well, honestly, too, I think it sets a bad precedence, and this has been a conversation, again, had, as I've traveled with many of the counties that they bring it up, they're like, if we continue to keep picking up these costs from the state,
Right.
and making their life easier. If we don't stand firm on a few of these and say, you know what, no, we're just,
Right.
we can't, so.
It's not unreasonable for the state to fund state agencies.
Absolutely.
I mean, like SSTAT, yeah, like SSTAT.
Like ESTA, yeah.
I mean,
Some we're
Something
gonna
we have
get,
zero
yeah.
control over, and yet.
Pay for the state to raise our state taxes.
Health
does
Department's
not make
another one.
sense.
Look at the fights we have with MDE, and yet we have no say locally, and
Yeah,
we've
no, I
been
agree.
50% of the cost, so.
The additional 70,000 to 120,000 for additional sheriff staffing and protection. I mean, I guess these are certainly questions I could probably ask the sheriff when he actually comes in here during the process, but what does that equate to? 2 deputies?
No, that's per
That's
deputy.
per-
Each man, each deputy, 70 to 120.
70,000?
Each.
Oh, okay.
Salary plus benefits.
Okay.
Yeah, and that would be potentially for, resource officers, other officers for enforcement on state road, whatever the case may be, if the commissioners want to.
To Chris's point, actually, yes, what they're doing now, they're running speed traps on state roads,
Yeah.
which they were never allowed to do, and yet we see zero of that revenue. That revenue goes to the state.
All right.
And we're funding the operational side to put them deputies out there for
Safety, which is good.
For
but
our safety,
the
yes.
state's job.
And, keep our citizens safe on 301, even though we know the majority of the traffic is, Jim can attest to over and over, is technically, a lot of it's not even local traffic, so,
4 or 5's closed today.
yeah. But anyway, again, it's another state, something we're funding for the state that's kind of hidden, it's not talked about, but yet, so.
Well, that's how you you get these deficits funded
No, it is.
without raising taxes and fees. You just kick the cost down to
Down to
the
the counties.
Yeah,
down to the counties.
Very disturbing trend that they're setting over there right now in that regard, so.
So
Okay.
they don't raise the fees, the taxes. We
Next
have-
slide.
We have to.
all right.
All right,
You
Jeff,
can go on and on.
you get it back,
Keep
Jeff.
it moving,
Do you have
Jeff.
any good ones? Does anybody have a good one? That's all I want to know.
Last one?
The last one.
The last one, yeah.
Save the best for last, huh?
Yep. Commissioners are taking a cut in salary.
All right, here we just wanted to show our debt service projections. Debt service is our annual principal and interest payments on our debt. The top portion of the table basically just shows that, this year we're paying about $12.5 million for current debt service that we have. And it goes down a little bit each year, down to $9 million out in 31, because that's just the current debt that we have. The bottom part shows potential additional debt that we would obtain to fund all the various projects in the current capital plan. So we go from 12 million up to about almost 26 million by FY31 if all of the bonded projects in the current plan come to fruition. And the next slide, it shows total debt, which right now we're at FY26, we're at 96 million. And you can see how it goes down each year with the current. And then again, with each additional year, as we add more, we go from 119 million this year up to about 241 at the end of our 6-year plan, if all things stay in the plan as they currently exist.
And keep in mind, it is a plan, it's a 6-year capital plan, and we never do everything in the plan, but it is, and as we were talking today, stuff moves around, gets moved back and forth, shifted, changed, and sometimes eliminated. So I know that number out there in FY31 seems huge, and it is, but that's if every single thing gets accomplished, and we don't really have the capacity and probably the ability to do everything in the capital plan that we have. But it is a good planning tool for.
And that's based on
adjusting.
everything in your left-hand column prior, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And these next two slides just show how we,
It is.
It is hot in here.
Yeah, this is the good news here, showing how, even with all that debt, we meet all our debt measures.
yes. So these next two slides show three measures that we maintain to monitor our debt level. First policy requirement is that we keep debt below 10% we keep debt payments below 10% of our annual budget. You can see right now, we're right at about 6.18%. But if everything proceeds as currently planned, you know, we do hit that 10% threshold by 2031. Now, this is a planning document. The capital budget changes quite drastically year to year. We don't actually ever plan to hit that 10%. But if we keep it loaded as it currently is, that's the risk we hit.
31.
In 31, yes. However, out of the three measures that we use to monitor our debt, that is the only measure that exceeds the policy. The second chart there shows our debt as a percent of assessable base, and we like to keep that under 2.5%. There you can see we're at 1.1 now, and even at the highest level in 2031, we're still, you know, 0.5% below that. So that's well within our threshold. On the next slide is our third measure that we use, debt per capita, debt per capita income. And again, our threshold for that is 8%, and we're still well below that throughout all of our planning years.
So Jeff, if you could, and I know I don't know that we've ever done this, but I'm just curious where it is and what the trend's been on it. But like, so we all know that when education was supposed to be funded, it was basically supposed to be funded by property tax and property tax only. I'm just curious if you can kind of chart how much we're dipping into income tax and how much we have over like the last 10 years and what the trend's going to look like from here out. Of what percentage of income tax is going to be required to backfill that money to meet that education chart as it's projected now. Because I think that says a lot, because income being the most volatile revenue stream that you have to deal with, if that number is continually growing and growing at a rapid pace, I think Commissioner Corcorino brought it up at some other time at Roundtable about the fact that, you know, if we grow at 4.5, but we're growing our education budget at 8.5, 9.5, eventually that curve is going to collapse.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
The
going to come to a
education budget
point.
will double, and at 7-8%, you're gonna double about 7 years, so that's.
But yeah, and I'd just like to see where that cross is, where actually income, it's going to really start affecting all the other general services, emergency services, and all the other things that we got to provide for. Because it's going to happen if the rate it's going.
Absolutely, yeah, we can draft something up for you, send it around.
Because I think it'd be good to show the state that too, because I'm pretty sure if other counties did the same thing, they're going to find the same trend.
That's likely. Yep, probably so. Yep, okay. Yeah, we can do that. That's easy.
Okay, so here we just wanted to go over our public engagement strategy for the year. Similar to prior years, we've added a few things though, such as this workshop today is new. Then we have our normal, our regular 3 workshops in March and April to visit the Board of Ed, Library, Sheriff, Parks, Public Works, and then other departments as needed, as well as the outside agency grants. We have our 3 public information sessions we'll schedule again as typical. What's new is a lot of new online resources. We have our new online budget transparency portal, which we are in the process of building. It houses our budget schedule where citizens can go to see what is when. All our work session handouts will be up there, the presentations. This presentation will be up there tomorrow. Of course, all of the county administrators submitted budget. Our new budget and brief document, which you may or may not have seen last year that we rekindled, which is a kind of a 20-page booklet handout that we have at the public information sessions with a lot of charts and figures and graphics that depict the budget a little bit more user-friendly, if you will. Said we're adding some new online resources. If you all have any thoughts or ideas, anything we could do better, present better, or provide more information to the public, please let us know. But we're trying to, like I said, build up our website with lots of great information.
No, I think you guys, honestly, I think one of the ones you've done in the last like 3 years that I think is important for the public to see is that education the rise in education, how it affects the budget, what it means. The decisions have to be made up here and on your end to make sure that we can continue to meet that education number, but what it affects elsewhere, that people, I don't think they really understand how much we're spending on education. And
Right,
we have-
and that a lot of it is like, it's investing into already things in the education, right? So you're just sort of raising the cost of things. It's not like, because of curriculum, we're adding a whole bunch more teacher specialists, or
No.
we're adding a whole bunch of, new, equipment for the kids to learn on.
Programs, no,
It's,
nope.
it's taking what you already have and just raising the cost of everything. And so it's really, it's, the actual benefit to the student is not as great as you would think by the amount that we've had to invest into it.
And as you guys, I'm sure you're aware and you've seen it, so the actual, I guess, when they start looking at the numbers, the AIB does, it's very conveniently set for December of 2026, when they look to see if the blueprints actually, if the metrics are meeting the goals. And we all know what December of 2026 is. It's a month
Right
after
after
the
a very
election.
important day, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, to me, I think that's just disingenuous. I think they should be looking at it now and starting to pare back stuff. You're getting ready to go into a session where you could address some of this stuff. And the other thing, I think the conversation's got to be had with our board, because it's being had with every other board in the state right now, is waivers. Carroll County did the first waiver last year, and they're going to become real in a lot of counties. I know Dorchester is already talking about applying for one. Somerset is on the shore, and other larger counties are thinking about it for programmatic stuff, that you got to delay the funding for it, because A, they don't have the teachers to even backfill to do the programs they're suggesting, and B, they don't have the money to pour into it, to your point, and are you going to get better results by doing it right now?
And they got they got a waiver for 1 year. They're
No,
not
they
gonna.
got it. No, they have a 3-year waiver.
Oh, they
Carroll
do?
County has a 3-year
Well,
waiver.
do they think they're gonna fix all that in 3 years?
Well, it's, I think the governor made a great point at Mako last winter when he said the whole collaboration thing, how are you gonna hire 12,000 more teachers when you have vacancies of up to 3,000 now? Where are you gonna find 15,000 teachers in a year? So it's common sense on a lot of it, is just to say, you can't do it, you can't do it, why fund it?
I apologize, I have to cut out early to get my son before daycare closes, but.
No problem, thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. And finally, last slide, next steps. Quickly, in terms of guidance, we'll be providing to the departments next month when the budget instructions go out. We'll make the point that expenses are outpacing revenues driven by inflation and rising costs of personnel. We'll be recommending non-payroll operating costs be held within 3% growth, emphasizing conservative approach to budgeting, be realistic, not optimistic. We'll assume continued increases of 3 to 6% in wages and benefits, and prioritizing core services. And, we'll need to continue to scrutinize additional personnel requests. For capital budgets, we'll be recommending prioritization of ready-to-go projects, the phase-in of multi-year projects, deferral of non-essential assets, and make sure we consider the operational impact of all capital budget requests again. And finally, we want to approach 27 with fiscal restraint, strategic prioritization, and long-term sustainability. And thank you all for your time. And, as always, if you have any questions, need any information, reach out.
What do you guys think about putting out a services survey
What?
now in January? County services survey of the existing services, see how people feel about them, and
Yeah, we did that one time, didn't we? Did we do that? Maybe it was,
it'll help prioritize, like, services that maybe need, to Jeff's point about the, costs that may be associated with providing essential
I
services
think we
versus
did that in 2011.
extra
Budget.
services or
Maybe in
whatever.
that Shortfall. I think we sent a questionnaire out.
2013.
Huh?
I'm 2013.
It's a good idea, Jack.
Was it 13 we did it?
No.
Oh,
That's
but I'm talking about, you were on the task force.
It was more than a
So that was
decade
12 years
ago.
ago, though, so like,
Yeah.
Digital,
I thought we
yeah, I think,
sent out a
Beth,
questionnaire.
a digital
Those three
one could
categories
be,
that we had.
some kind of a digital survey could be
Task
put
force
out,
for.
and even you know, yeah.
Right,
I think it's a good idea.
QACTV can run something for it to kind of get interest in it, and just, I'd just like to see what people like. Do they like our emergency services good? I don't want to hear about trash pickup, or, you know, I don't care, we're not going down that rabbit hole, no. But the existing services, how they feel about them, if there's any improvement, like the parks, things like that.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions or
No, is that
thoughts
it?
on the budget? Did you want to talk any more about, or any more questions about the Board of Education projects? That is a decision that we had on the agenda tonight for a decision for the letter. I know Commissioner Wilson mentioned about when we can anticipate the state getting the money for the construction phase. I mean, we can certainly make those inquiries. I don't know that we'll get
We're not gonna answer
an answer that's going to make us feel any better. They may say, oh, yeah, the money's there,
I look
or,
at Grace still on the AIC, I thought he was still on there.
but,
Yeah, I mean, do we want to, I think what Todd's concern is we have to vote on
I know we
this. We can vote on it conditionally, and if we get some feedback that we don't like, we can.
I don't know that
always
we're going to get, you know, feedback that's going to be, you know, something that we can go to the back, yeah,
Concrete.
high
right.
confidence, yeah, high confidence, you know.
I just see $2.5 million.
Cable guy's gonna be there between 9 and 5.
Right, exactly.
You're gonna be somewhere between
I
here
mean, we
and
might,
here.
I don't know, we didn't ask that question, but it's a good question, we can certainly ask that question, but we do have to make a decision by the end of the month, right? So this is our
last topic.
It's our last meeting together, but we can certainly get an answer to that question.
We could vote on the 1 through 3, and then, once we get the information, we could
Yeah.
formal consensus on 4.
Well, what's the downside? We vote for it, what you just negotiated, right?
We can always say no later after the.
You can, yeah. No, that's why I said we're gonna vote for it.
Yeah, just-
We'll just vote on all of them.
I mean, we're
All
gonna
right,
vote them all.
that's fine, yeah, I
It's
mean, that's
just-
fine, yeah.
So I would
Yeah,
vote on it, let's get that one moving and
right, I agree.
see where it hits.
No, it's what I said, we don't have a choice.
Yeah,
Sounds good. All right.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you all.
all right,
So-
thank you
I don't know
all.
if I
Get a
should
motion
thank
to
you or
go
not.
into closed.
Like any,
We gotta make a motion. Oh, we're going into close now? Make a motion to go into closed session?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.